Jak and Daxter, arguably one of the best gaming trilogies out there, and personally one of my absolute favourites. Hello males and females of the universe, and welcome to today's video. Today I want to take this time I have to talk about one of my favourite franchises on the PS2. Now, I understand some of you might have already seen videos based on this trilogy like I have, but I thought it would be a good idea to voice my opinions on the three main games and why I think it's my personal favourite. Cause, you know, my opinion is far more superior than anyone else's. Am I right? Guys? Now, before we get into this video, I would like to point out that there may be spoilers ahead. So, if you haven't played the franchise, I'd suggest playing the games for yourself or clicking off the video now. Now, without further ado, let's get into this video. So, for those who don't know, the franchise starts with Jak and Daxter, the Precursor legacy. In this game, you play as a currently mute character, Jak, who before any other games were released, was assumed to be from a small village known as Sandover. There, he is friends with a strange but kinda funny character named Daxter. Daxter is basically Jak's companion throughout the games. In this cutscene, we see the currently known Daxter fall into what looks to be a big vat of dark eco. Later in the video, I will go into more detail about what dark eco is, since we learn more about dark eco in the other two games, but we'll get to that later on. Now, as far as information for this game goes, I'm afraid I don't know much else, so let's skip to the start of the second game. Now, at the start of Jak 2, we see four main characters: Jak, Daxter, Samos, and Kira. In the previous game, Samos is the Green Eco Sage, Kira is the love interest of Jak. Seems simple enough, right? After the first game, these four individuals find themselves looking at what the games call Precursor artifacts. Now, Precursors are pretty much kinda like gods who created Jak's planet. At the end of the previous game, the group found something the Precursors called a Rift Gate. Now in Jak 2, they currently sit in what is known as a Rift Rider, which is used to go through the Rift Gate. Little do they know, on the other side of the gate is a path to their future, which in a way could be considered dark. For those of you wondering, that's not a pun. Let's talk about eco. According to the trilogy's lore, dark eco can have different effects depending on the person. For Jak, he survives the experiment, and having dark eco inside of him allows him to undergo a transformation which can make him stronger and a lot more powerful in terms of melee. While with Daxter, after being exposed to dark eco, he has permanently been changed to another species known as Ottsel. And for those who don't know, an Ottsel is a hybrid between an otter and a weasel. By the way, Ottsels are a key part of the story somehow, so keep that in mind. Anyway, back to Jak and his dark eco. Looking at the footage before you, Jak's transformation seems badass, right? Like, it's literally fucking amazing. Look at it. Look at me and tell me I'm wrong. This is one of the reasons why I like the games though. This transformation is badass and is quite useful to beat a bunch of enemies in a flash. It also gives Jak new abilities that he can use against them. One of the coolest abilities he has is called Dark Bomb. He does this by jumping and then slamming his fist into the ground. Luckily you get this at the start of the game, and honestly it's so fucking cool. Look at this shit. You can literally take out most, if not all of your enemies inside your radius. But enough about dark eco and Jak's transformation. Let's talk about the plot. I love the plot of these games. Your aim in the second game is to pretty much stop Baron Praxis from ruling Haven Sea, and also to stop the Metalhead army, which, for some strange reason, is led by an old man. Although, not quite. The Metalhead leader is actually a Metalhead himself. He is actually known as Core. He's just managed to change his shape to look like the rest of the human race. And throughout the whole game, his plan seems to work. For the most part at least. But spoiler alert! Core is the final boss. Even though he's not the easiest boss in the video game, he's also not the hardest either. Let's move on to Jak 3, the best part of the trilogy, and a game where even more of the story unfolds. At the start of this game, we see Jak and Daxter being dropped off in the wasteland, which was mentioned a few times in the previous game. Jak seems to be wearing handcuffs, which shows the player that he has been arrested. Kind of a throwback to Jak 2, only this is entirely different. He is left in this wasteland by Ashlyn and a newly introduced character, Count Vega. Count Vega? More like Count Volga, am I right? Kill me. Soon we learn in the story that he is one of the main villains and is pretty much out to kill Jak. The duo are then left all alone in the desert and Jak collapses to the ground. Oh yeah, not gonna lie, kinda forgot to mention that Pekka, the monkey macaw thingy, is in this as well. I kinda forgot about that, I do apologise. After Jak has a flashback, he is then soon accompanied by a group of males who come to their rescue. That sounds really fucking weird, not gonna lie, bruh. The story of the game starts in a city in the wasteland known as Spargus. The city is soon learned to be full of people who are thrown out of Haven City by Baron Praxis. Their leader Deimos, who also happens to be Jak's father. Jak, however, doesn't learn who his parent is until nearing the end of the game, which honestly got me, mainly because Jak didn't learn this until his father died. Spoiler alert, by the way, for those who didn't listen to the beginning of the video. Jak also learns that his real name is actually Ma, the name that his father gave him. Which reminds me, Jak never meets his mother either, so let's move on from his family issues. There are a lot of changes in this game. The main obvious one is the location of where the player starts, and it seems that Jak's appearance has changed too. Later in the game we have the chance of visiting Haven City, and when we get there we notice one or two new locations. The Metalhead nesting area in Haven City, and an area that I don't know the name of, which is pretty much the main headquarters of the main city for those who are trying to save it from the infestation of the Metalheads. This game carries the same mechanics of the prequel to this game, with the same controls with movements and guns. But however, the game adds new vehicles that can be unlocked as you complete the story, some with their own abilities and the like. And of course, you can also receive your jetboard back, which is my personal favourite of the mechanics in this game, as it looks so satisfying to watch Jak ride around the map on his board. Remember the Precursors that I mentioned earlier? Well, we meet the Precursors at the end of the game when we want to activate the planetary defense system, but upon getting there, we see a Precursor robot, and their identity is soon given away when the robot opens up and reveals small creatures that look an awful lot like Daxter. You know, cause who knew that the Precursor race were a bunch of rodents all along? In Jak 3, we learn that the Precursor's DNA is somehow connected to Dark Eco, which is why Daxter managed to transform into one of them in the first place. Before they are revealed to us, there is a light blue figure that talks to Jak. Now this looks familiar to those of us who played up until this point. This reminds us of Light Jak, which is also a transformation that Jak just so happens to get in this game. With this transformation he can heal himself, slow down time, and grow wings. He can also use a shield for a short amount of time to prevent enemies from attacking, but they can also take a bit of damage when they try to hit him. So moving on to the story. In this sequel we also happen to be introduced to the Darkmakers, who are said to be precursors, but they have been corrupted by Dark Eco. In the story of this game, they plan to destroy Jak's world, but luckily our hero defends the planet and manages to save the day again. Kinda like in any other video game, but that's besides the point. So to conclude, I want to say this is my favourite gaming franchise, because the story involved within the series has a few plot twists and surprises here and there. Not only that, the story can be very comedic and funny. Most of the mechanics in this game are pretty damn flawless, and I personally think that you all should play this franchise. So, if you haven't already, then please go ahead and do so. If you have, then, well, go play them again, they're fucking amazing. I can promise you that the Jak and Daxter main trilogy is a fantastic experience.
I'm gonna kill Praxis!